Hi everybody, welcome to my presentation on parts of a research paper. This one's on the results section. So our parts of a research paper usually starts with an abstract and then moves into an introduction, then the methods, sometimes called methods and materials or just materials, then the results section, which we'll discuss today, a discussion, and it follows with a reference list. So for milestone 3, you're going to be graded on the results section that you write, the figures, and also for articulation of response. So we'll cover each of these today. So for this paper, you're going to summarize the results section of your 3 sources. Remember that results are what was found in the study, and you want to include specific data, numbers, and statistics. You do not want to include any methods. Remember, that's how the study was done. And you don't want to discuss what your results will mean. That is going to go into the discussion. You're simply reporting the hard data. So here's an example from a paper I wrote on reproduction, gestation, and birth in pygmy rabbits. I'm going to read this real quick and then we'll go over how this is a results section. Captive pygmy rabbits had 0 to 4 litters annually, averaging 1.3 plus or minus 1.0 litters per female per year, N equals 85 females. Excluding those females that did not reproduce at all, 65 females averaged 1.7 plus or minus 0.8 litters annually. Females in the small breeding pens produced a maximum of 3 litters per year, whereas 2 of 2 females held in larger naturalized breeding pens produced 4 litters a year. Of 75 litters that emerged or were found dead in their natal burrow, not including litters from which 1 or more young were removed from the burrow by the female, or instances in which the young were partially consumed or buried by the female, litter sizes ranged from 2 to 7 young and averaged 4.1 plus or minus 0.1 young per litter. An average of 4.3 plus or minus 4.4 young were born per breeding female each year, N equals 82. Excluding the 20 females who did not become pregnant, an average of 5.7 plus or minus 4.1 young were born per breeding female, N equals 62 annually. So this is a results section because what I'm doing is I'm strictly reporting the numbers of what we found. I'm discussing how many litters and how many young were found each year, and I'm using a numerical response. I'm reporting the means, so I have the average, and then I have plus or minus the standard deviation, and then I'm also reporting the sample size along with that. We did not run statistics on this because we were just doing a summary of breeding numbers, but had we done statistics, the statistics would have been included in this section as well. For a particular note, we're not saying how it was done. Remember, that's the methods. And we're not saying what any of this means. For example, we did see that our females that were up in the larger breeding pens had more litters per year, but we're not discussing that. We're just reporting the numbers. We can discuss what that means or why the larger pens had more litters each year, and we'll do that in the discussion. The other thing you're going to be graded on is figures. You must include at least one figure or table that it was created by you for this assignment. Do not copy and paste from your sources. You must create it yourself. So you can actually recreate a figure or table that is found in your sources, but it must be done by you, not copy and pasted. So you're going to want to find a program like Excel or something like that where you're actually creating a figure or table yourself. It's actually preferable for this assignment if you include at least 2 figures, tables, or a combination of. This is because for the final paper, it requires at least 2 figures or tables, and this will be your primary source for feedback on these to make sure that you've done them right. If you include a second figure or table in this assignment, that can be copied from your sources, but just make sure that at least one of them is done by you. Make sure that your figures and tables are aesthetically pleasing and that they look good because that's part of the grade. And include all the necessary components such as a title. So for example, you might put figure 1, growth rates of plants receiving various amounts of fertilizer. For tables, make sure you have column headings, and for figures, include axis labels and titles, appropriate legends, or whatever necessary components are for the type of graph that you choose. You can place your figures within the results text or at the end of the results. It's your choice. You're also going to be graded on your articulation. So something that's really important, some people are missing, are your section headings. So you have to make sure that each section of your paper is labeled abstract, intro, methods, results, discussion, reference list. And in this case, it will be the results. And so make sure you have that very clear results heading at the top. This basically helps to clearly separate your sections and it makes sure that everything is clear for the reader. If you want, you can go ahead and put subheadings in again. Some of you did that with the methods. You can go ahead and do that again with the results if you want, where you'll just have the heading of results and then you have subheadings for each of the titles of your papers. You also want to make sure that you have a properly formatted reference list. Again, APA manual starting on page 106 will help you with this. Specifically, journal article examples can be found on page 110. And you can also use Purdue OWL as a great resource for examples. Remember, you're going last name, first initial, then you're going to have the year, title, and then the journal specific information like issue, volume, and page numbers. Some important reminders on the reference list. Make sure it's in alphabetical order. Always use initials for the first name. Don't forget to include all necessary information for your reference. Double space between references to keep things clean. And make sure that the font and font size is consistent amongst your references. If you're copying a reference over, make sure that at the end you copy all of them or select all of them and make sure that the font and font size is the same. So to summarize, we talked about results, figures, and articulation of response this time. Your next milestone, milestone 4, is going to be your discussion section and abstract. So I'll get something posted for that next week. Thank you.